DreamHack Atlanta. It's day 3 of the Marvel Rivals Ignite Grand Finals, the first in-person international LAN event. Its losers finals and FlyQuest are the last hope of the North American teams to dethrone EU's reign as the dominant region. Standing across from them are the reigning mid-season champions, NAVI. FlyQuest are down 2-0, and now facing elimination, it's their last map pick, Heart of Heaven. No more second chances. The crowd always loves an underdog story, and especially a hometown one. So every KO that shows up in the feed is met with either an audible gasp or an uproar of cheers as hope washes over them.
Freedom charge, Goddess of Death, the reset from Vision, and he finds a 3K!
NAVI are on the attack first, and off a dominant showing, they cap third point with 1 minute and 32 seconds left in the time bank. FlyQuest go next, and they have to fight and scratch for every inch, especially through point number 2, where a 5-minute time bank gets whittled down to almost nothing. But despite it all, they're able to push through and capture third, with no time left to spare.
With Vision finding Majaro, it's just a matter of time as the song comes out, and they do it!
The camera cuts to the player cams, and the first thing you see is SparkChief, FlyQuest team captain and Vanguard player, with his face in his hands. And before long, his eyes appear red as he wipes away tears of frustration. Throughout the intermission, we see him fighting those tears back, and to be honest, kind of losing the battle. As FlyQuest gear up for their second attempt at attacking, SparkChief locks Captain America. He knows they have to capture first and then put up as much extra cart progress as possible if FlyQuest want to keep their hopes alive. SparkChief gets in deep in the enemy backline. He finds Fate's BRB and breaks it. No reses for NAVI. Then, he goes in deeper and pressures both Fate and level 1 Crook. They have no choice but to peel for each other, so they can't heal their front line. When energy strikes first blood onto Jerky, the rest of the KOs will start to trickle in. And before long, FlyQuest cap, and the cart starts moving. The next fight is a bloody one, but NAVI win it out in the end, and stop the cart just a short ways into second. NAVI are up next, and with the bigger time bank, capping first is essentially a given, but FlyQuest make them work for it. NAVI cap, and it's an overtime push to match FlyQuest progress. Tension begins to rise as the cart inches closer and closer to a NAVI victory. FlyQuest have to hold it here. They're out of room to breathe and completely backed up against the wall. The first pick goes FlyQuest's way, and then the second, but it might not be enough. NAVI have the spawn advantage, and like a never-ending horde, one by one they return to the fight. They seemingly just won't go down. FlyQuest need more. They need nothing less than a decisive fight win, and they need it here, and they need it now. SparkChief pops his ultimate, Freedom Charge, and in the most cinematic fashion imaginable, FlyQuest assemble, they rally together, and they finally put NAVI down for good. It doesn't get more poetic than that. The camera cuts back to SparkChief's player cam again, and as the crowd erupts, the emotion wins out, and with a sense of relief, he breaks. These are the moments that make esports incredible. After leaving DreamHack Atlanta, I wanted to make a series of videos recapping the event and breaking down some of the major narratives both going into and coming out of it. But before I do that, I had to take a closer look at the moment that inspired the whole idea to begin with, and no doubt captured the hearts of the other fans in attendance. SparkChief briefly embodying the spirit of Captain America himself to lead his team to a map win and keep the dream alive, when half of the team had already given up and come to terms with their defeat, and a crowd chanting his name as he walks to the back to collect himself. That's something special. Connection. To the players, to the teams, to the orgs, to the esport itself. It's moments like these that make us fall in love with esports, and it's something you can only replicate at a LAN event. Esports is about more than just competition. It's about narratives. It's about overcoming hardships, and it's about the journeys that the teams and the players go on in search of history. It's all about the story. And there's no better way to get invested in a story than a strong character moment like the one here with SparkChief. They're not unique to just Marvel Rivals either. In fact, every esport has them. Another good example is the 2023 Overwatch League Grand Finals in Toronto. Hangzhou Spark versus Atlanta Reign. Atlanta Reign boasting a super team, packed to the brim with some of the absolute best at every single role. Players who still to this day compete at the highest level. The favorites to win the whole tournament, and in many fans' eyes, the best in the world. Their opponents? The plucky underdogs, the Hangzhou Spark. The best players that China has to offer, and the last hope of the Eastern teams in the tournament. A region that this season, many consider to be far weaker, especially compared to the cream of the crop in the West. Hangzhou were already the crowd favorites coming into it, but most wouldn't have put money down on them winning. It seemed all but a given that Atlanta would win and have an easy bracket from there on out. Atlanta Reign take the first map with ease, and then the next. And suddenly, Hangzhou are one map away from being a footnote in Atlanta's rise to the top. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, a miracle happens. The momentum begins to shift midway through Suravasa, and Hangzhou tape map 3. And then map 4. We go to a 5th map, and we're all tied up 2-2. And, in a moment that no one saw coming,
The Hangzhou Spark have done it! It's a reverse sweep!
The East demands your respect!
the camera cuts to the team on stage, and you can see Shy, the team's hitscan DPS player, fighting back a bloody nose. Every member of the team wanted to win so badly, but for Shy, he wanted it worse than anybody, and he fought so hard for it that his body nearly failed him. To this very day, that moment is still burned in the minds of the Overwatch fans, both those who were in attendance that day and those who saw it on stream. And it's for that reason that, well, despite a lackluster performance lately, Weibo Gaming, the team now consisting of the Hangzhou Spark players, is generally considered to be a heavy contender in every tournament they play in. Why? Because people cheer with their hearts, not with their minds. And that day, their hearts were captured. While the story of the Hangzhou Spark may have had a happy ending, FlyQuest's chance at a comeback sadly didn't. Let's run through the series real quick. First map, Krakoa. Right away, NAVI's ban strategy is clear. They target the strategist and force FlyQuest into an uncomfortable backline. First, the Jeff ban. FlyQuest are known for being very proficient at the front-to-back playstyle, and Cooper is one of the best Loki players in the game at this point, and they know the culling of the strategist is coming. So out the gate, they protect Loki. Navi, then ban Mantis, and then Invis. FlyQuest know for sure that the last ban is going to be another strategist, so they choose to protect, you guessed it, Cloak and Dagger. Predictably, the Luna Snow ban comes from Navi. I asked Navi's analyst about their ban strategy, and this is what she had to say. TBH, we were quick scouting FlyQuest match against VP that happened right before. FlyQuest is a very we pocket 2 people and they pop off ordeal. So if you ban out the strategists that supposedly are good at pocketing the pop off people, then the team just falls apart. I genuinely don't get the Cloak Protect. So yeah, the Cloak and Dagger Protect was a bit of a mistake, and one that Navi would be happy to exploit. FlyQuest still have access to things like Ultron, Rocket, or Adam Warlock, but those don't really suit the front-to-back playstyle as well, and like Skyza alludes to, they're not the best at pocketing the pop-off players, especially since Ultron's healing nerf. And it turns out, she was right. On Krakoa, FlyQuest just can't keep up, and Navi win the map 2-0. Next map, Midtown. And predictably, Navi go right back to banning out all the strategists they can, but FlyQuest change things up. Rather than protecting the Loki, they instead use their first protect to ensure a one-sided Mantis for their team. For those who don't know, Mantis is absurdly strong, especially in triple strategist comps. And when it comes to pocketing the pop-off players like we said, she's just the best at it. A 12% damage boost means your duelist players should always be able to win their 1v1s. That translates into more ult charge, more ult rotations, which means more fight win conditions. Not only do they get the Mantis Protect, but they also say, okay, 2 can play at that game, and they start retaliating with strategist bans of their own. Mantis, Jeff, Rocket, and Adam, all gone. Going back to something else that Skiza had to say, FlyQuest also just didn't bother to ban Rocket from us. Well, this time, they did, and it resulted in a much closer match. While Krakoa might have been a 2-0, Midtown was nowhere near as one-sided. In fact, FlyQuest nearly hold NAVI at second, but it's a Dance the Butterfly from Jerky that keeps NAVI alive, and with no time bank going into third, it's an overtime push for NAVI. They stall out just shy of full capping. FlyQuest had successfully set themselves up with a win condition. They essentially just needed to complete the map, and they would walk away with their first map win and tie the series. But their attack phase was not at all an easy one. FlyQuest nearly get held on first. Vest lands a crucial Meteor M to shut down Crook's ultimate, and with less than a minute, they find it. Going into second, their time bank is scarce and they can't afford very many errors. They catch Jerky trying to set up for a very aggressive flank and successfully find the punish. But as the cart rolls forward, he comes back and he pops his ultimate in order to force resources out of FlyQuest. With no strategist ults to stop him, Naga then pops Kraken Impact. Vest has no choice but to use Meteor M to absorb the damage and ensure that Naga's ult can't get a reset. But even without the ultimate, Naga still goes crazy. A disgusting 2-tap onto energy and a crazy hook onto vision means FlyQuest can't win the fight and they have to give ground. On the retake, Cooper opens up with a key pick-off onto Naga. Vision wants to press the advantage off that pick, so he pops Rage of Ultron and pressures the backline to try and force out any strategist ult he can get, and he gets exactly what he wants. Suddenly, the door is wide open for Energy to dash in and find 3 with his ultimate. And again, with no time to spare, FlyQuest caps second. On to the final phase, home stretch. Navi know they have to act fast, and they know that Cooper used his Soul Resurgence to close out the last fight for second. So Zealous' Fate of both worlds is their only obstacle. Jerky and Trust Me both use their ultimates to try and find a KO through it. It doesn't work, but it still forces out the ult. And with that gone, Rajaro goes aggressive and finds a key pickoff onto Vision. Remember that, as Rajaro's aggression will be coming back into the fold here very shortly. Vest trains it out though. Off a sleep from Cooper, Vest finds Trust Me, and SparkChief sees an opportunity. He pops Freedom Charge and goes in as deep as he possibly can to try and pressure the backline. He knows he likely won't find a KO, but he also knows that that is a risk that Navi are not willing to take, so they have to peel back. FlyQuest take the space. Unfortunately though, there's only 20 seconds left, and if they want to complete the push, they'll have to fight for it, and Navi have the ult advantage. So despite SparkChief drawing aggro, it'll still be an uphill fight. Energy uses Dance of the Butterfly, and Crook lives through it with Luna ult. Still down Vision, and not wanting to risk giving up another KO to Navi, Cooper pops his ult next. Naga knows it won't be easy, but he still thinks he can find a KO through it with Kraken Impact, so he goes for it. Vest, though, blocks it with a clutch mag bubble, and then he pops Meteor M, and hits a potentially game-winning shot to find the KO onto Naga. And for a brief moment, the KOs feel like they're all going FlyQuest's way, until Rajaro once again goes hyper-aggressive and finds the best possible KO he can. A trump card to Vest's previous big play, and one that seals FlyQuest's fate. It's Zelos, and at the exact moment that he would have had his ultimate. Without Zelos' ult there, even with Vision's Rage of Ultron, it's not going to be enough to close out the fight. And what's worse, it gives Jerky time to build up to yet another Dance the Butterfly. All the remaining members of FlyQuest fall, and Cooper has to swap to Doctor Strange to teleport them back to the point. Zelos comes through the portal and has no choice but to use his ult now, but at this point, it's only to buy time. All Jerky has to do now is wait.
But look at Jerky. He's got the Dance of the Butterflies ready to go as he can try to find FlyQuest. He uses it right on top of the portal. Both teams, both Dance of the Butterflies, they are having a waltz, but it is Jerky who dances on top.
After that, we're on to Heart of Heaven. And, well, we already know how that map goes. I asked SparkChief directly about how he felt in that moment, and this is what he had to say. It wasn't the pressure. I was hella annoyed. It felt like 4 people just gave up, so I was just hella angry. We went into both matches knowing what they could ban, and they did exactly that. Yet throughout both series, we only tried what we all agreed was good before once and almost won, and never wanted to play it again for some reason. We were legit one Luna ult away from winning the map. And to be honest, he's completely right. If Zelos is able to live with that ult, there's a good chance FlyQuest are able to close out that fight and threaten the full cap. And Navi's bans throughout the series don't deviate at all from their past strategies. Predictably, when we go to map 3, it's the entire strategist roster on the chopping block yet again. Once again though, FlyQuest managed to secure the one-sided Mantis, similar to Midtown. This time around though, they ban out the Psylocke and the Phoenix, which drastically limits Jerky's playmaking potential. And even though it's a close call, FlyQuest do inevitably win this map. But it's because of SparkChief's determination, leadership, and his ability to make his teammates who believed the day was already done find that last bit of hope. As he said, they were one Luna ult away from winning Midtown. And I think for a lot of the boys, the frustration of feeling like it was so close and ripped right out from under them began to set in somewhere in between that point and FlyQuest's attack on Heart of Heaven. But pushed to the point of breaking, SparkChief rallied the troops and kept the dream alive. Sadly, NAVI would adjust going into map 4 and take the win, meaning FlyQuest would be eliminated, but not before giving that one last glimmer of hope to the entire NA region. As incredible as the SparkChief moment was, it wasn't the only character-making moment that happened in Atlanta that weekend. And if you had already been paying attention, it was far from the only story that was told. Virtus Pro's redemption arc from not even making the mid-season LAN event to hoisting the trophy at the end of the day. The unexpected run of Chopper Mag, the OCE underdog story that shocked the world, and Bobo's heartfelt message to the crowd afterwards.
Now, everybody know us. We are Chopper Mag.
Crisis being subbed in for NAVI to pull them back from the brink of defeat and causing a seismic shift in that grand finals matchup against VP.
This is so hard for Crisis to come in cold, but no, he is not. That means Ringer will get shut down. That's 2 in the fight for Crisis, and on the point, they're here. He gets the reset in the side bay, and Song Inferno comes in, but he comes back down to shut down Finzi, taking a 4K, and the rest of the team is on this point to clean everything up. NAVI, maybe that's that spark they needed.
100 Thieves, and how one singular tiny mistake almost cost them their elimination match against Citadel. Justice for Melania, by the way. The timing was just so narrow.
Is that the man advantage that they need? Ken also uses the Jeff for himself, but Melania!
The downfall of Envy, and how the collapse of one of North America's best teams signaled the changing of the guard for the region.
Uno got cast, and Envy cast out of the tournament!
And also gave us whatever the hell this is. SparkChief's moment may have been the one that inspired this video and any other analysis I do on the event going forward, but if you watch the event, there's a good chance it wasn't even the one that spoke to you the most. LAN events serve as the season finales of the drama we've all watched unfold after the many weeks of qualifiers, league play, round robins, and group stages. The culmination of all the stories we've been telling, and in some of those stories, it's the beginning of a new chapter. They are supremely important for the esports infrastructure. That's where the hearts of the fans are captured and where lasting memories are made. Marvel Rivals did have its first LAN event in China for the mid-season championships, and I think that inspired a bit of hope for a lot of people. But that event didn't have a live crowd. Atlanta did, and you can feel the difference it makes. When the stakes are high and the energy from the crowd is palpable, magic happens. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I want to make more videos like this in the future, but I want to get a little bit more in depth with analyzing some of these matches, kind of like I did for Midtown, but with much more of a deep dive. I only kind of scratched the surface there. For this one though, I just kind of felt like as a caster, I had to talk about the narratives and the moments that make me fall in love with what I do, and what I think turns a lot of us into longtime fans. And if you're a fan, then don't forget to subscribe. And if there's a moment from the grand finals that you want to see me break down or that you think would be particularly interesting, be sure to leave a comment down below or just let me know what your favorite moment from the event was. I'll catch you guys in the next one. And remember, esports is for everyone. Bye.